It's so loud, isn't it?
It's American.
It's very American. So if we start in a Sukhasana, an easy cross-legged position, just giving ourselves a moment to get comfortable. I love that. So much for interoception. So today's class is going to be about following on from last week when we were dealing with spinal extensions, about this kind of movement. We're going to be thinking about shoulder mobility. Shoulder mobility is a big thing in yoga because obviously that connects with the ability to extend through the spine and for the thoracic to be fairly flexible. So we're going to be working very gently with those motions. So we'll be doing reverse Anjali movements, Pajvakonasana, and we're going to be working with a side plank, Vashisthana, and reverse tabletop. So I'm going to start with just moving into the hands a little bit. So if you bring your hands behind your body and put some weight into the wrists and see how it feels to maybe bring the shoulders back so the shoulder blades almost touch together, and just feel into the wrists and shoulders. How does that feel? And then spin the fingers around so they're pointing outwards, maybe swaying from side to side. You can create a little bend in the elbows and just notice how that feels for you today. And spiral the fingers around. So if the fingers were pointing inwards towards the buttocks, let's point them outwards and notice how that feels. A little bit of something coming up for me there, for sure. And then see if you can bring the fingers to point in towards one another, if that's available to you. And then we're going to flick the hands upside down and spread through the thumb and the little finger. Super. Now, how does that feel? Excellent. And we're going to do the same thing in front. So the hands are in front. How do they feel in this sort of neutral position? And spreading the fingers to the side. How does that feel? Now, this action is quite useful when we come into our side plank. And then again, maybe, and I wouldn't expect the base of the hand to come down here, but you just get a sense of opening around here. And don't worry if you can't do that. And then spiral around the fingers facing in. And then flip the hands upside down. So how are your hands today? Lovely. Super. And then we're going to deal with the neck area because the neck area has a lot to do with the constriction around the shoulders. Let's just tilt the ear down to the left shoulder, resting the hands on the knees. Coming into the breath and just allow for the weight of the head to tip to the side. And I can already feel my shoulder lifting up towards the ear. So go, it's okay, shoulder. We can just relax and rest away from the ear. It's such a natural response for the shoulder want to lift. Let's encourage that down. Super. And if you are someone who feels a lot of tension around the shoulders, I invite you to bring the eye gaze up to the right corner of the eye socket. So you're gazing at the uppermost corner of the eye socket. So we're utilizing the eye muscles to relax the neck muscles. And by relaxing the neck muscles, we can relieve any impingement on any of the cranial nerves, such as the vagus nerve. That has a lot to do with our well-being. Gazing up at the corner of the eyes, and we're looking for a shift in the nervous system. And that shift may be from this kind of sympathetic nervous system, the drive, the fight or the flight, into the parasympathetic, a state of rest and digest. So you might notice a sense of transition there, a sense of wanting to sigh, or maybe perhaps some salivation comes about. And those are all good signs. Now, when that has come about, you can stay with this for longer than 30 seconds, but if that has occurred, just bring the gaze to neutral. Notice how you're feeling there. And we're going to roll the chin forwards so we can lengthen the back of the neck muscles before tilting over to the other side. So the right ear comes down to the right shoulder. And again, it may be less likely on this side, but if the shoulders are lifting up towards the ear, really draw that down towards the floor. So you're reassuring a pet. You don't need to come up towards the ear. This needs to just draw down and away. And then again, if you want to bring the eye gaze into this, you lock the eyes to the left corner of the eye socket. And if one side wasn't working quite as effectively, this other side may be more effective for you and your body. So gazing up at the left corner of the eye socket, noticing whether any of those states of transition take place, the salivation, the need to sigh, anything that comes about, allow that to come about rather than trying to control it. Gazing up at the left corner of the eye socket. And when those states have come about, if indeed they do, bring the eyes to neutral and roll the chin forwards. So I invite you to bring the fingers up to the back of the neck and just give that area a little bit of attention, massaging along the side of the neck. And you can massage up the sides here and back down again. Feeling into the tendons and the musculature that become so tight around this region of the body. And you can bring the fingers around the back there, massaging into the top of the shoulders. And sometimes it can be helpful to pinch into the top of the trapezius, which is this triangular muscle at the top of the back here, superficial muscle. And perhaps you can pinch and feel how tight or how loose it feels around here. So for me, I can tell there's still a bit of tension there, but it's not as bad as it can be. And just feel into whether one side is the same as the other, if there is a sense of symmetry there, or if one side is tighter than the other. It's very likely to not be symmetrical. Asymmetry is very normal within the body. Super. And then let's release the hands. Now on an inhale, we're going to lift the arms up overhead. Inhaling through nostrils, bring the hands together, looking up through the hands. Exhale, bring the gaze down and clasp the hands behind the body. So we're clasping the hands behind the body and lifting up through the arms. Inhale. Lift up through the sitting bones. Maybe the fingers come together. Gaze up. Exhale. Clasping the hands together. And lifting the clasped hands, maybe leaning forward slightly. Inhale. Gazing up at the hands. How does that feel within the shoulders today? Exhale. Coming into a flexion movement. Lifting up through clasped hands. Lovely. Leaning forwards even more. And release. Keep the hands clasped as you come up. And just relax the shoulders. How does that feel? Can you relax the shoulders even more? And then lift up the clasped hands. And relax the hands. Super. We're going to bring the hands forwards now into a clasped action. You've got a choice here. You can bring the legs out into a V shape or keep them crossed. So if you come into a V shape, sometimes it can feel more secure and stable because you're widening the base of support. And if you're in your cross-legged version, you may feel like there's more movement. So the choice is yours. Clasping the hands in front of the body, we're going to grist the mill. So imagining you have a massive cauldron inside you, it feels very fitting with it being the full moon. And we're spiraling into the base of the pelvis. Imagining that the spine is like a pestle and the pelvis is our water. We're going around in one direction, breathing down the length of the legs with the toes pointing up to the ceiling. And really move into the circular motion. You can bend the elbows if you like. Drawing circles as large as you like. Or indeed as small as you like. And the next time you come into your neutral, we're going to come back in the opposite direction. Inhaling, exhaling as you come around. Inhale. Exhale, So 5 of these in this direction. Perhaps you can feel this motion into the spine, into the back of the shoulder blades. 1 more. Coming back into your neutral. We're going to rest the left hand to the inside of the leg, smoothing the hand alongside the inside seam. Inhale the arm up overhead, coming into a C shape. So opening this lateral C. And then we're going to spiral the arm forwards and come through a windmill action in the shoulder here, allowing for the arm to rest down. Maybe following with the gaze of drishti. 5 of these on one side. And you feel that into the serratus anterior underneath the armpit. Breathe the arm around. And after your 5 windmills, bring that hand onto the sacrum or the heel of the pelvis and gaze up at the ceiling. How is your neck? Is your neck happy to gaze up at the ceiling? If it feels too much today, just look forwards. Breathing along this right seam of the body. Lovely. And we're going to direct the arm up towards the ceiling and lift up through that arm to come to our neutral. Stroking that hand along the inside seam of the leg to come to the other side. Pivoting on the sitting bones and bringing the arm up along and overhead. And we're just imagining that that breastbone is coming up towards the ceiling and then spiral through the shoulder. Inhaling, the arm comes up and over. Exhaling, drawing the hand down. Inhaling. Exhaling. Following with the gaze. If the neck will allow for it. 5 of these on one side. And then draw that arm onto the sacrum and feel that sense of opening around the shoulder blade. Notice whether the neck feels okay to look up at the ceiling here. So for instance, I'm not comfortable at all in this position, so I'm just going to drop my gaze down. Adjust as you need. See if you can relax into this shape. And explore gazing up at the ceiling again if you've had to drop your gaze. What adjustments can be made to make this more comfortable? And then lifting the arm up through the sea towards the ceiling. We're going to lift up and pivot up and come up to our upright position. Super. So we're going to bring the feet into Baddha Konasana, cobbler's pose. Placing the feet wherever you want for comfort. So the feet can be further away or they can be closer in. And we're going to come into our forward fold. So imagining your feet are like a book and you're pressing the seam of the book and opening the book wide. The feet may want to do the same. Just be cautious about not pushing into the knees too strongly and allow for the torso and the heavy head to sink forwards. Baddha Konasana, cobbler's pose. And you might find the breath quietens as you come into this forward fold. Allow for the head to be completely free. How much can you let go of the head here? Can you let go of the head even more? Breathing into the back of the body. Baddha Konasana. And then lifting ourselves up with a sense of calm and peace. We're going to draw the knees together and just place the hands behind the body. So we've got the fingers pointing towards the buttocks and lift up through the breastbone. Bring the chin in towards the chest. We're going to come into reverse tabletop. So if you need to make any adjustments after your first attempt, that's absolutely fine. You want the feet to be hip width apart. And we're just going to lift fairly smoothly, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling. Notice what angles are taking place here. And if you need to adjust and make some more space, come back down. And it may be the case that you need to move the hands away to make more space. And if that is the case, make that adjustment. And
lift up through reverse tabletop. Now there is this shape with the head back, but first of all, I want you to explore how it feels to really focus on drawing the knees away to lift the hips. If your neck felt okay earlier, you can try and experience opening the head back, but that can be quite strong. See how that feels within your body today. I really recommend gaze forwards actually, and draw your buttocks back down, wrapping the arms around the knees for your counter pose here. So that can feel quite strong on the low back to lift up the heavy pelvis. Just give yourself a little wiggle. We're going to come into reverse plank. Now, in some ways, because of the angle of reverse plank, there's less movement necessary around the front of the shoulder blades. So you've got your legs straight, you're in Dandasana staff pose. You bring the hands behind the buttocks, probably about the same angle as before. And you're hinging the hips up, really focusing on the support of the wrists here, lifting up the hips, spreading through the fingers. So there's less going on around the shoulders, but it's hard work to lift that heavy pelvis. Come down and come into a forward fold. So Paschimottanasana to ease out the lower back. Breathing through the back of our bodies. And releasing around the lower back. Releasing around the upper back. And we can try one of those two versions again. So either reverse plank or reverse tabletop. So it's your choice. Whichever one felt more accessible for you, more useful for you, come into that version. So you've got the reverse plank coming from this position, or reverse tabletop from this position. Whichever one works. And the reverse tabletop is better in order to isolate the movement of the hips, but it's stronger around the front of the shoulder girdle. Super. Breathing, remember not to hold the breath. Spreading through the fingers, through the toes, and release. Coming down through Paschimottanasana or Baddha Konasana with your little forward fold. Nice and smooth and easy. Super. Now we're going to come down onto our backs. If you've got a strap, great, we can use a strap. Otherwise, you can still do Supta Padangusthasana without a strap. So we come down into semi-supine. Oh, that's extravagant for me. Come down into your semi-supine, take your time. And we're going to work with the right side first of all. So we're going to be opening up the back of the legs and the hamstrings for our standing pose. So grounding down through the left foot. We're going to lift up the right, just gathering the strap around the base of the foot, around the padding of the foot, or indeed the arch of the foot, and extend out through the heel. No need to lock any knees. Explore how the back of the leg feels today, without striving for moving the leg in any extreme angle. Just feeling into the back of the legs. So I would suggest caution is a great thing within Supta Padangusthasana. Notice how the jaw reacts as the leg moves. Are you finding that tension is moving up into the TMJ? And if that is the case, maybe rewind, move the leg into an easier angle. And maybe let's explore, if the lumbar is okay, lengthening, straightening the lower leg. How does that feel? So it can feel nice to float the heel off the ground, or you can rest the heel down. There's definitely a sense of the hip flexors lengthening when the heel is resting. which is an interesting kind of asymmetrical position to be in, with the leg moving up towards the ceiling and the hip flexor shortening, whereas on the other side you've got the hip flexor lengthening as the leg moves away. And then let's bend the lower leg, allowing for the knee to wing out to the side to create a sense of stability with the longer leg, the leg that's straightened. So we're coming into an external rotation within the hips. Now, for some of us, it may be the case that we can just sort of clunk the leg to the side. But I want you to think about there being a sense of restriction, a sense of protection, of support. So you don't go to the outer reaches of your external rotation of the hips. And you have the left leg here weighing and anchoring the leg down. So we're aiming for the hip points to be fairly square. And then we're going to roll over the feet here. So the foot, the lengthened leg with the straight knee is coming through the midline. And the bent knee again is anchoring, coming across the midline to the other side. So the strap now is going to come over to the left hand because the foot is directed over to the left hand. Move the right hand out to the side and breathe into the deeper hip flexors here and the piriformis. So if you experience anything like sciatica, sometimes that can be a tension in the piriformis. And this is a really lovely shape to move into that. Help ease that piriformis. Breathing here before drawing that foot back into your neutral, exploring the length of the hamstring before we come to bend the knee and release the strap, coming to the opposing side. So the right leg comes down to ground through the footprint and the strap hooks around the foot here, extending up through the leg. And there's absolutely no need to rush this movement. Exploring into the left leg, how does this left leg feel? Waking up the foot, so the toes pointing towards your face. Maybe you can feel some resistance here, as would be completely normal. And then if your lumbar is happy, we can extend that lower leg out away from the body, hovering the heel at first perhaps, or just bringing it straight down to the floor. Now you'll notice as you drop the heel down, that there needs to be a sense of lengthening taking place around the front of the hip flexor of the right leg. Breathing along the back of the left leg here, with the strap being very useful so we can keep the shoulders back and not feel like we're hunching forwards to try and reach the foot. So I did practice this at home, holding onto the toes, and I was like, it's just not the same. It's not as good. So strap is definitely helpful. And then bending the lower leg here, our anchor comes into a bent knee before winging the half Baddha Konasana out to the side and allowing for the straps to come over to the left side of the left hand, and the right hand can come to the right hip point, again for extra anchoring. Not coming into the most extreme external rotation possible, but trying to maintain a sense of integrity around the pelvis. It can be helpful to move the foot away, so you're creating a sense of fluidity within this movement, exploring the possibilities for that leg. Now notice what's occurring in the right side with the bent knee. Before we roll over the foot that is anchoring us and coming through an internal rotation now as we rock onto the inner arch of the right foot, coming across the midline. So the straps now can come into the right hand and the left hand can lengthen out towards the floor, or you can bring the hand onto the hip point to balance the pelvis. Coming into this internal rotation, feeling into the deeper hip flexors on this side. And if you're someone who's been running, this can feel like there's something really taking place. Whereas for those of us who don't have the tighter hip flexor scenario at the moment, it may be the case that the sensation is coming along the IT band and the outer reaches of the leg more so. Breathing here. Before we release this foot back up to neutral, bringing that winged knee up to neutral, feeling into the back of the leg one more time, just noticing if there's some more space there, sense of lengthening, before we release the strap, bending the knee and bringing the foot down. Going back into our semi-supine, lovely. So we're going to come into thread the needle. Adjust yourself so you feel symmetrical before we bend the right leg. External rotation at the hip. Flexing the foot, so dorsiflexion to protect the knee, to come into that first position of thread the needle, where the leg's in the figure of 4 shape. And then drawing the knees in towards the center, we can gather the hand behind the thigh or thereabouts, wherever works for you, and rock and roll into your thread the needle. And don't try and pull anything tightly here. You want to maintain the appropriate alignment of the knee. Breathing, exhaling into the hips. Inhaling through the nostrils. Exhaling through the nostrils. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling, maybe moving the hand, exhaling and seeing if there's a little bit more space there. Now rocking and rolling can be really helpful to move into this space. Releasing the gather behind the left leg, drawing the foot down and removing the right foot. We're coming to the opposite side now. So bending the left knee, allow the knee to spiral out to the side, bring the foot directly into dorsiflexion to protect the knee. How does that feel in this position? And then gathering the knees in towards the chest. Perhaps the hands gather around the back of the thigh, or perhaps the hands gather around an area that's closer to you. So don't feel like you need to strive into a tighter shape of this than necessary. Rocking backwards and forwards, easing into this space. And just notice if you can pay attention to any changes, any differences. What is the same and what is different from this side to the other side? And maybe you can even notice a difference today within your hips compared to maybe a previous week. For instance, I know that my hips, from doing this, I can tell my hips are extremely tight compared to how they may have been last Saturday. And just notice that without judgment of where you're at today. Super. And then release the hands away from the leg. Drop the foot down. Drop the second foot down. And just allow for the spine to release down into the ground. So we're going to come into eagle on our backs here. Eagle pose, Garandasana. So firstly, let's work with the arms. So bring the arms out nice and wide into a wing shape. We're going to wing those wings in towards the midline, but then we're going to cross over. So crossing over the forearm, and then crossing over the upper arm, and then bend the elbows. So you're bending the elbows so the backs of the wrists can almost come together. And then we're aiming to re-wrap the wrist. So the wrap of the wrist takes place. So you've either got back of the hands together or the palms together. So there's almost like a twisted, bendy reed, Anjali prayer mudra taking place. So if you're in your eagle or a version of thereabouts, see if you can lift the elbows up towards the chin, feeling into the back of the shoulder blades. Breathing. And this shape really does zone in on the rhomboids between the shoulder blades here. Breathing into this space, drawing the chin in towards the breastbone. And then we're going to release and come to the other side. So winging the arms open. This time the right arm's coming underneath the left, the opposing arm. So we're coming to the other side, crossing over the arms. So the elbows bend. You come into that first sense of twist where the back of the hands come together. But see if you can re-wrap the hands to bring the palms together. Now, if the palms won't come together, the back of the hands to come together, that's absolutely fine. Lifting up through the elbows, feeling into the back of the shoulder blades here. And this is strong. This really does move into the shoulders in a way that hardly any other asana does. Breathing, and then let's inhale and release. Moving into the feet and the legs this time. So we're going to cross over the left leg over the right leg. Simple crossing of the legs. And then we're going to re-wrap. So the second wrap takes place where the foot hooks underneath the shin. So you've either got a double wrap or a one wrap. Lovely. Now, if it's okay to be in that position with the knees drawing in towards center, so there's a sense of abdominal work taking place here, let's draw the arms into this. So we're going to go for the left arm over the right arm. And because we've worked with the arms in isolation, it may be easier to move into this with the legs in their wrap. So you end up with your full Garandasana in supine, your eagle. And we're going to draw and exhale the knees and elbows together. Inhale, draw them away from one another 3 times. Exhale. Allow for the lumbar to flatten towards the mat. Inhale, moving them away. Exhale, drawing elbows and knees together. And release the arms, release the legs, and let them drop down. We're going to come to the other side. So the Garandasana legs takes place with the right leg coming over the left. We're going to do a second wrap, so the foot hooks underneath and the knees are directed up towards the face. Super. You've got either a one wrap or a two wrap, depending on where you're at. Then we're going to bring the arms over one another. So the right arm comes over the left, above the elbow, bending the arms and wrapping the hands. So the back of the hands come together or the front of the hands. Coming into Garandasana. And wherever you're at on your exhalation, I invite you to draw the knees and the elbows together. Inhale, move them apart. Exhale, elbows and knees. Inhale, moving apart one more time. Exhale, elbows and knees come together. Inhale and unwrap. Draw those knees together into Apanasana. And we're going to rock and roll onto our all fours. So rolling along the spine. How is your spine today compared to other times? And if you want to, we're just going to meet in all fours at the front of the mat. So with no rush at all, of course, coming into all fours. Spreading through the fingers, noticing the distance between the shoulder girdle and the pelvis. We're coming into a neutral space, neither extending or flexing in particular. Imagining that the tailbone is drawing away from the crown of the head, so the length of the spine is as long as it possibly can be. Drawing the shoulder blades together. Lovely. Now we're going to bring that right hand into center beneath where your drishti or your gaze is. Inhale the arm up and over, spiraling up towards the ceiling and come through into a thread the needle. So we're just going to move fairly dynamically, but very slowly within your thread the needle. And it may be the case that the front or the side of the face doesn't want to come all the way down. That's absolutely fine. Just feel into that motion. Bringing the arm up towards the ceiling. Exhaling and bending the elbow, spiraling through the spine. Inhaling. And on the third one, as we come into our thread the needle, I invite you to lengthen through the arm at the top, to come into a slightly stronger version. So one arm is almost in puppy, And the other is flat against the floor. Breathing into that space before bringing the arm back into center and lifting that arm out, coming back into your neutral. Make any adjustments necessary before bringing the left hand in through the midline and inhaling up through the arm. Exhaling, thread the needle. Bring the gaze through. Notice how this side feels compared to the other one. This may feel more natural on one side compared to the other. There may feel like there's quite a lot going on one side. Again, we're really moving into the depths of the rhomboids here. And this third time we thread the needle through, I invite you, if it feels okay to do so within your body today, to lengthen out through the arm in front of you, feeling into this right shoulder, and you can adjust while you're there. Feeling this sensation of opening around the back of the shoulders. You may feel it around the front as well, around the deltoids. Breathing, and move that hand back to support you as you come out and back into your tabletop. Lovely. Coming into a neutral space, make sure your hands and your fingers are spread wide, directly under the shoulders. The knees are under the hips. We're going to extend out through the right leg without moving the torso or the pelvis much at all. Spreading out through the foot. How is that for you today? And then draw that foot back in and come to the other side without hardly moving the pelvis. And then, of course, if you want to, I invite you to come into your plank. So this time you can bring up the other foot to meet the foot that's already straightened. Breathing here. How does this feel? Before bringing the knees back down into your all fours. So we're going to come into bird dog. So extending through your right hand and your left leg, keeping that integrity of the spine and the pelvis, moving slowly and mindfully, because we can do these actions quickly, but when we do them quickly, we're kind of railroading over our attention and awareness. And then draw the knee and the hand back down. Extending through the left hand and the right leg. Breathing down through the sole of the foot and the middle finger. Breathing here and draw the hand back down to meet the other with the knee. Coming to the other side. Now, if you want to, this time we can draw on the exhalation, the elbow and the knee together, coming into flexion. And then inhale out. Flowing between these movements. Not rushing to get from A to B. And extend out. Notice if your wrist is feeling like there's a lot of weight dumping into it, come back into the other side. So we're in neutral. And make any movements that you need for the palm before extending through the opposite side. Keeping the pelvis in neutral, the spine in neutral. Lovely. And then if you want to, you can draw the elbow and the knee together. Or you can work between the points of bringing the hand and the knee down. If you are bringing the elbow and the knee together, exhale on that flexion. And then draw the hand and the foot down, the knee down, to come back into your neutral. And breathe the hips back. So we're coming into Balasana, child's pose, just for a moment. Dropping the forehead down into that humble position. That is child's pose. Breathing to the back of the spine. And we're going to lift the hips up off the ground. So we're going to work with side plank next. So my main cue for you today with side plank is really spreading those fingers wide. Now our first position for side plank, and I will show you, you can spiral the leg out to the side and move the foot out here. And you get this sense of lengthening along the side of the body and you lift up through the hand. So that's your first stage with side plank. And it just ensures that everything can move without dumping too much weight into it. The second position for side plank, and I'll show you and then we'll work together with it. You come into your plank, but you bring the feet together really close. And then you're rolling onto one side. So the position is a very straight Tadasana through the body. The feet being together is really important. Then you can come up into Vashisthana. Okay, so let's do that together. Firstly, with a supported side angle triangle. So we're going to spiral the leg out to the side at the same time as moving the foot to the side of the body. Make sure the hand is directly under the elbow, lifting up through the side seam of the body. You really get the sense of lengthening here, and you can roll onto the foot if you bring the foot into the dorsiflexion. Beautiful. Breathing up along the collarbone here. Excellent, beautiful. And then bring the hand back down, spiral the foot back in. Now we have the chance of coming into the full Vashisthana side plank. So we come into our plank, bringing the feet together as tight as possible because they've got to be almost like one unit. Then the tricky bit is moving the hands so it's in a position in alignment with the feet and rolling onto the side. So you want to make sure that the hand is sort of in line with the feet. It might be an alignment thing if you make sure the hand, yeah, that's it. But it's really hard on the hands. And you're getting the same action from having the leg down. So it's there as an option to try. Let's go back into the side angle with the knee splayed out to the side and the foot coming out. So we've got the positioning with the knee and then directing the leg out. Super. So we come into our supported version. Now we're going to really take the weight into the legs now, using the arm to lift up into gate pose. So make sure that that ground for support is there. Beautiful. Made it. And then we're going to lift up through the right arm and come into a C shape through the spine, following the gaze, lifting the arm up towards the ceiling. Reach. So that's okay, you're just on the opposite side. That's fine. Breathing the arm up overhead. How does that feel along the side seam of the body? And bring that arm back down, spiral to come back and through. Bringing the foot back in and the lengthened leg on the other side. So we're going to try on the other side. Do you want to come into child's pose? Let's come down into child's pose. We'll come into a slightly different child's pose. So if you bring the knees wide, sinking down, if you bring the forehead down, bring the hands together, and see if the hands can point up towards the ceiling. How does that feel? Breathing along the front of the arm, the shoulder girdle here, and the back of the body. Coming back to the breath. Let's release the hands and come back into all fours. So we can make sure we'll come to the other side now. So just say if I'm coming to the wrong, doing the wrong thing. So firstly, we're going to come into our supported side angle, side plank. So we're going to spiral the left leg out to the side. So if you were doing the opposite to what we were doing, that's fine. Just come to the opposite side. Extend the leg out to the outer reaches of the mat. So you've got one straightened leg, one bent leg. Make sure that hand is happy where it is and spiral the arm up towards the ceiling. Lovely. Your side plank here. And then we're going to move into gate pose by lifting up through the arm and coming up upright. So the torso comes into a slightly different plane, relaxing the shoulders. And then bringing the arm alongside the straightened leg, lifting up through the other arm. Excellent. So we've all got left arm reaching up and over, going into a C shape. So there'll be some strong sensations coming about within the legs and the side of the body here. And release the arms, spiraling down to the side, coming back into your tabletop. So if you did try your side plank on this side, on the other side, you can try it on this side. And I really do just want you to work within where you feel comfortable. If you want to push yourself a little bit, that's fine too. Just remember about bringing the feet together You want the hand to almost be moved so it's in line with the foot, the left foot, so you can roll over to the side. You imagine the body is like a Tadasana. It's very straight. And it's bringing the toes off the ground. Lovely. I like that you've modified like that. That's good, Julia. Thank you. And then bring the hand back down. Bring the knees down and come back into child's pose. Opening out the knees wide, coming back into Balasana. And just release your body down to the ground. You're going to creep the hands over to the left side of the mat, lengthening along one side of the body. So we're lengthening along the right. Breathing here before creeping the hands through the midline to the opposite side. Breathing into the side of the rib cage here, widening and softening. And bringing the hands back to center and pad them back up. Bring the knees together and just find yourself in hero pose. Lovely. So we're going to explore how the shoulders feel to come into your reverse Anjali. And that reverse Anjali will be a position that we find ourselves in here, so we can come into a standing pose like this. So if you're happy to come into the wrap of the elbows, so just feel into how spacious that feels. Remembering to drop the shoulders away, relax the shoulders, relaxing the jaw, and relaxing the self as much as possible. Letting go of whatever is being held within our bodies. Lovely. And see if you can lift up through the knees to come into a high kneeling. Has that changed anything in this position? Super. And everyone looks comfortable there. So the next option as we bring the hips back down is the reverse Anjali. So this is where it gets really tricky. So making sure the wrists feel okay. So for instance, the side plank may have opened some things up here. So you just want to ensure that you can open the hands out. Now, this isn't for everyone, so let's just explore. The hands come in front of the chest, and this Anjali Mudra, pressing the thumb into the breastbone. Now, how does it feel to really press the hands together? So there's a sense of moving away. Super. Now to bring the hands behind the body, and this isn't easy for me either. So bringing the fingers together, we're aiming, and this is like work in progress, really for everyone, because the hands are not going to be used to coming into this position, and you're aiming to bring the thumbs together, and wherever you are is where you're meant to be today, okay? So that's your reverse Anjali. So wherever you find yourself, see how it feels to be kneeling, see how it feels to be coming up onto your knees. So you have two choices there, and whichever choice you go for, and I really do recommend, if you do release your reverse, to work with the wrap. I have to say, it's one of the, without trying to go too deeply into the wrists. So we've got our two options there. So we're going to transition now up into our standing. So wherever you are, we're going to come down into down dog. Coming into the knees, into the legs, keeping those arms nice and long. Remembering we're trying not to take too much weight into the upper body in your downward dog. As we lift the knees off the ground and draw the gaze up towards the knees as we come into downward dog. How does this feel? And if you feel like you're taking too much weight into the joint of the thumb, spread those fingers nice and wide, press the depths of the fingers down. So the tips of the fingers press down. And then if you need to move your left foot in towards the center to come into three-legged dog. Three-legged dog is where you lift the leg up towards the ceiling, but the pelvis is kept down. Lovely, three-legged dog. And we're going to transition by drawing the foot through the hands. And you can bring the hands behind the heel here. And we're going to drop the knee. Now it's likely that the knee has dropped in a position where the knee is quite far away from the front foot. But we're going to come up into a position slightly differently today. So we're going to bring the knee closer in, and we're going to come up into Virabhadrasana. So Virabhadrasana is our warrior one. So just drawing ourselves up, we're going to pulse through these points where we have the bent front knee and the back leg straightening, but then we come back down into our little runner's starting position, which is appropriate for the Olympics, I think. So pulsating in and out. And you don't feel like you need to put the heel down of the back foot. You can have that heel hovering and then come back down with the knees. Lovely. And then coming back up. And we're going to make sure that we've got the weight in the feet in order to bring the hands into Anjali Mudra at the breastbone. Pivoting up through the torso. And really pay attention to where the legs are now, because we're going to adjust the legs slightly so we can come into Parsvottanasana. So with our Parsvottanasana, theoretically, we have the feet parallel, the knees fairly straight. So we're going to try that without the hands in reverse, first of all. Pivoting through the hips, coming into this forward fold. Noticing what's occurring within the legs, firstly. Lovely. Breathing, lovely length through the spine and lift up. Super. Now, for those of you who are slightly hypermobile in the knees, you can bend the knee slightly. So the next time we come forwards, we have a slight bend in the knee. And that may change the ability to hinge at the hips. Coming into your forward fold, soft gaze, lifting up through the torso. Now this time, we're going to come into our arm variation with the reverse. So wrapping the hands around the elbows, slight bend of the front knee, feet parallel, hinging at the hips. Keep the neck nice and long. So the gaze of the drishti is down at the big toe. And we're thinking about length in the spine here. Lovely. Breathing yourselves back up to an upright position. Now, if you want to, you can try reverse Anjali. And watches are not helpful with reverse Anjali. So if you remove any watches, see how it feels to bring the fingers together, the lower back. Perhaps you find yourself in a position that works for you. There'll be an edge there. And then you come into your forward fold. Just explore potential. Just knowing that things change within the body from day to day. Super. Thinking about length between the tailbone and the crown of the head. Inhale and release. Releasing the hands. Shake the hands out. It feels tender after that kind of practice. So this time we're going to come down in a slightly different fashion into Trikonasana. But the entry is going to be different to some entries that you may have been taught before. So we want the back foot to pivot out slightly, but we want the knees and the pelvis to be facing forwards. There's going to be a sense of opening as we come forwards into Trikonasana. It's this kind of shape. And the movement is coming from the side seam of the body. Lovely. You guys seem familiar. It's great. Looking up at the hand, if your gaze will allow you. Just adjust the monitor. Breathing into this shape and then release yourselves back up. So you come back up, lifting up through the arm. Open the arms nice and wide. Thinking about strength coming along the side seam, come back into your Trikonasana this time. I'm just going to go and check the battery situation. Breathing along the side of the body. And I want you to focus on your breath here. So you have the option to breathe 5 times along this side of the body. Think about spiraling the breastbone up towards the ceiling. So you come into this side angle. And then come up and out. So how does that feel coming out of your Trikonasana on this side? Super. So you've come up and out of your Trikonasana. Super. And we're going to spiral and come back down into your runner's lunge. From your runner's lunge, take your foot back and either come through tabletop or downward dog to come to the other side. So we've got runner's lunge on the opposite side. Working, coming out, pulsating, and coming through. I'm going to do that 3 times. Inhaling, finding a position that works for you, and you'll really feel the hinging to take place in the hips. Come back down through runner's lunge. One more time, coming up. Making sure that your base of support is nice and sturdy with a bent knee at the front. Bring the hands to Anjali Mudra and come up into your standing position. Lovely. So we're going to think about that base of support with the feet parallel, and you can widen the base of support. So if you feel like you're on a tightrope, you can widen it so the feet are wider. And we're going to come into the Anjali Mudra version first of all. So sometimes you see in the images that the front knee is completely straight, but you can have a bend. And that can help for the action of the hinging to take place more efficiently. Thinking about a lovely straight back here. Breathing, lifting to come out. And then we're going to try wrapping the hands into our reverse. So whether it's the wrapping of the elbows first, I'm going to hinge forwards. Breathing around the front of the shoulder girdle. This position is strong. And then coming up and out. Option here to come into reverse Anjali. You can do the wrap with the elbows as well. Pressing the base of the hands together. Coming forwards. Breathe. Lovely. And inhale to come up. I'm just going to spiral round for Trikonasana. So we're now spiraling the heel in slightly, letting go of the reverse Anjali. And here we have a support with the legs and the pelvis facing forwards. I'm going to open up through the hands and spiral, lifting up through that right hand up towards the ceiling. The left arm directs down towards the mat. And you're not necessarily leaning on that left side. And inhale up through that right hand. Option to come down one more time. You can explore straightening the leg at the front if you would like. Breathing, lifting up through collarbone. Breathing here. Lovely. Inhale, up and out. Coming up and bringing the feet together. Tadasana. Hands come down by the sides, feet hip width apart. Allow for yourselves to settle. Feeling the footprints into the ground. Feeling into the knees, to the thighs. Can you relax the knees? Relaxing around the front of the thighs, the front of the hip flexors, the belly, and the shoulders. Excellent. We're going to come into Utkatasana firstly before we come into Eagle. So bending through the knees, grounding down through the pelvis. We can lift up through the hands. Now, if you feel like there's restriction as you bring the arms up overhead, which is perfectly normal, just bring them in front of you as you come into Utkatasana, relaxing those shoulders. Feeling the weight of the pelvis, nice and strong, lift. Come up into Tadasana. So you want that sense of bending the knees when you come into your eagle pose. So in eagle, we're going to ground down through the left leg first, bending the knee. You bend the right knee, cross the leg. So it may be here that you're working. See if you can bend the knee even more and wrap the foot round the back of the leg. So you have the option for your legs. We're going to open the arms wide. And again, the right side's coming over the left. So wherever you're at with the legs is good. Maintaining balance. Don't worry if you come out. Wrapping the hands in the way that we did in supine. Working with our balance here. Taking that navel center down. Breathing. And release gently. Coming back through Tadasana. Coming back into neutral. Noticing your footprint down into the mat. Bending the knees. We're going to come into the other side. So the right leg is your supporting leg. Come into your legs. So the wrap that you experienced on your back. Opening up the arms. Your wingspan. It's wide. Crossing the arms over. Left arm over right. And bending the elbows. Bringing backs of hands or palms together. Sinking down. And just work with your balance. Eagle is not easy. And come in and out as you need. Opening the wingspan. And we'll meet in Tadasana. Super. Just breathing the arms down. I'm going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. Bringing the legs wide. Heels come out slightly to the edge. Coming into a forward fold. Prasarita Padottanasana. Allow yourself the opportunity to relax forwards. Breathe. And bring the hands to the hip points. And release up and out. Swiveling the feet into one another. We're going to come down onto the sitting bones, sinking the hips down into your Malasana. Moving the feet if you need to. Bring the elbows into the insides of the legs. The thumbs come into the chest, into the breastbone. Super. And then dropping the hips down. We're going to come into Ardha Matsyendrasana. So straightening the legs out in front of us. We're going to cross the right foot over the left. If you prefer the version with the bent leg underneath, that's fine as well. We can use that one too. We're going to breathe up through the sitting bones and exhale to the closed upper leg. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, come back to neutral. And swap the legs. So this time the right leg is straight or underneath and the left leg is over the top. So whichever version you're in, inhaling, lifting up through sitting bones, exhaling, coming into your closed twist. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, coming to the front. We're going to release the legs and come into inversion. So, because I've got a clump to the head, I'm not going to show you shoulder stand. So, the inversion of your choice. Viparita Karini is the safest inversion with the legs up the wall. Otherwise, if you want to come into shoulder stand, you haven't got any headaches, migraines, eye issues, or any high blood pressure, you can come up into that. So whichever version is right for you. So I'm going to, for example, show you the Viparita Karini, which is the safest inversion you can possibly do. It's also a full moon today. So full moon, sometimes it affects some people in different ways. For me, it's really strong for there to be a full moon, but for some people, we're not really even aware of it. So our bodies aren't telling us to do anything in particular. If you are feeling it again, caution is good with an inversion. And obviously pregnancy and menstruation are another reason why you might not want to come into a full. inversion. So wherever you want to come into with that, just know if you are going to come up into your shoulder stand version, that the rolling practice is really helpful for you to get a sense of movement and shaping within the spine. If you feel confident enough to bring the legs up. You have the option of doing the supported shoulder stand. Brilliant. I can see you're going to go in, possibly going into supported or vipariti careening. Okay, great. That's perfect. And Julia, you can use that base. Oh, you got to go on the dot. Do you want to go straight into Shavasana? Go into Shavasana because then you get your 6 minutes. Absolutely fine. No, it's fine. No, it's absolutely fine. Do 6 minutes Shavasana. Don't worry about the inversion. Do any prep that you need to come in. Yeah. And I would say, you know, in terms of prioritization of your practice, Shavasana is more important than your inversion. Always. Because you want to come to that consolidation after doing a practice. If you don't do your Shavasana, say you did your inversion, stood up, I think you'd feel lightheaded, and it's, you know, give yourself time to settle. It's my recommendation. No worries. Make the most, make the most.
Thank you.
It's all right, no need to thank me. Yeah. So if you're in your Shavasana, allow for your body to settle down into the ground. And if you're in your inversion, just allow for the process to take place where gravity, the weight of gravity is pulling against the sense of drawing upwards. And it doesn't need to be a long inversion to be a useful thing to do. So if you have come into an inversion, you may want to come into your rotation. So you can always windscreen the legs from side to side, whether the space, you might be able to do it there. Bringing the knees from side to side. And extending the legs out away from your body. So if you need to move the mats, that's great. And come into your Shavasana that feels comfortable. So whether you need to use a blanket under the head, that might be a nice thing to do. The legs can roll away from the body, or indeed you could have the knees bent. Sometimes it feels more supportive to have the knees bent, to take the weight of the legs off the pelvis. Ensure that your arms can roll away from your sides. Sometimes it can be useful to adjust the shoulders by grounding down through the elbows and lifting up through the sternum, the breastbone, drawing the shoulder blades together and release the spine down. And if your mind needs something to anchor it, just follow the breath within the body. As you inhale, follow the movement of the front of the body as it expands. And as you exhale, follow that sense of the body settling as the chest retreats inwards. And as you follow the inhalation and the exhalation, your awareness goes elsewhere. That's absolutely fine. But if you find that your mind is wandering, thoughts or thinking, as the mind is used to doing, just bring it back to the action of the breath. Inhaling and exhaling. This sense of concentration is one of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga. And that's Ashtanga as in Patanjali. It's yoga from 1,500 years ago, not the Ashtanga yoga that we hear of today. And that first stage, which is concentration, is followed by absorption and bliss. They're the 3 stages of meditation spoken about in Samayana. So if we can fix the mind on the process of the inhalation and the exhalation, we are en route to the dissolving of boundaries within meditation. So I'm going to sit upright just to talk you through. Inhaling, exhaling. Noticing the sounds around us, the temperature, texture of the air against your cheek. I'm just going to turn the heating off because the sun has come out. Just turn it off. Bringing your attention to the back of the body as it rests onto the ground beneath you. Noticing the space around the top of the body, expanse above the body. And then bring the attention into the fingers and the toes, the extremities. And with no rush at all, at the end of the following sound, known as nada, from the singing bowl, I invite you to roll over onto the right hand side of your body. And at the end of the following sound, I invite you to ground down through the hands and lift up into an upright position, perhaps keeping the eyes closed if that feels comfortable. And then as you reorientate yourself through your pelvis as you come to an upright position, let's close with bringing the palms together for Anjali Mudra at the third eye center, the center of intuition, down through the throat, center of truth, past Anahata, center of compassion towards self and another, bowing in acknowledgement of one another and the space in between. Namaste. Thank you. So quiet. Feels really still. Are you hot as well? Because the heat seemed to really build up. Was it okay? Oh, good, good. Oh.